Hey everybody, welcome back. Am I the a-hole for wearing white to a wedding and having a whole bottle of wine dumped on my dress? Well, we shall find out, won't we?
Alright, the honorable judge presiding. You may be thinking,
Using my friend's account to avoid embarrassment if I am indeed the a-hole. A few years ago, I, then 22 female, now in my 30s, went to my uncle's wedding. Him and his wife, both in their 40s back then, are pretty well off financially. Just to give you an idea, her engagement ring alone was worth over $50,000. They had an intimate wedding and ceremony, around 40 people max. The venue was at this big mansion. It was gorgeously decorated with what can only be a minimum of $30,000 worth of flowers. We had amazing hors d'oeuvres between the ceremony and reception with champagne, and more champagne. We had a meal with too many courses to count on both hands, with every course paired with a new bottle of privately imported wine, all put together by a sommelier. For those coming from out of town, there were enough rooms to stay overnight, and for everyone else, there would be chauffeurs bringing them back home safely. Okay, classy. Important point though, they absolutely wanted no gifts, no registry, no money, no nothing. They would cover for everything. We only have to be there. Ooh.
I want to go.
Interesting. Love that for them though. Only condition was that we dress the part. Black tie event. They had no bridal party. Instead, they wanted us to skip the gifts and put that money toward an outfit worthy of their wedding. This is where I might have f***ed up. What did you do, bestie? I went dress shopping at the same shop I went to buy my prom dress. They have a vast inventory of dresses and gowns, and I figured I'd find something there worthy of a millionaire's wedding. I was given a $500 budget for the dress. Since I was 22, in college, still working a part-time job, I would have had barely $150 to spend on my whole outfit. So my mother helped for the dress as long as she could go dress shopping with me, and that I used my initial budget toward shoes and accessories. I really wanted to wear a black dress. I find it timeless and classic and beautiful. Always a great choice. My mother was all bothered, like, absolutely not. You're not wearing a black dress to a wedding. Why the f not? It's a celebration, not a funeral. Yeah, but like, some people just look really good in black, which I get. So I started looking at other dresses, but I really had my eye on this beautiful floor-length gown, all black with lace appliques. Truly gorgeous. The perfect balance, the definition of sexy but classy. I still dream about this dress to this day, to be honest, but it was black, so hard no for my mom. We ended up with a compromise. At the end of the day, I chose this other black sleeveless mermaid dress with lace appliques on the bodice going down the hips and thighs. Thing is, all that lace was white. The thing is like, I doubt that someone would mistake you for the bride if you were wearing something like that. Remember when I said there were new bottles of wine with every single course of the meal at the wedding? Well, during the main course, a server dropped a bottle of red wine on me. Not a glass, but a full bottle. Freshly uncorked, dropped on my shoulder. 750 milliliters of red wine poured on myself and splashed on the man sitting beside me. I was drenched. I even had wine in my panties. Ooh. So much I had to change underwear while my mother was trying to dry out my dress. My uncle had the server removed altogether from the service. It was not their first mishap of the day. Apparently, she dropped a whole tray of crystal champagne flutes full of Dom Perignon earlier and almost knocked down the cake. It was not her day. So wait, so she didn't spill it on purpose? I'm confused. After the wedding, my aunt was furious at the employee, and my uncle asked the supervisor that I'm compensated for the damages to my dress. The company ended up paying for the dry cleaning. Recently, I was retelling this story, and one of my friends said, well, of course you had red wine dumped on you. You wore white to a wedding. I mean, she didn't wear white. She wore a black dress with white lace. Not exactly the same as wearing an all-white dress. I've never thought of it that way, honestly. I was so focused on not wearing black because black lace equals funeral, it doesn't, that I never thought about the white lace on the dress. I think if your mom had such a strong opinion about like a black dress, she would have had a strong opinion about you wearing a white dress. So a year later, was I the a-hole wearing white to my uncle's wedding, and was the server only doing her job by dropping that bottle of wine, Rip Cabernet, on my black and white dress? All right, we have a reference photo. Picture of a similar dress, not exactly the same. Mine wasn't as long. The flowers were softer and maybe a little more form-fitting. Oh, girl, that's not a white dress. That's a really nice dress. I really like that dress. Let's get something straight here. We say don't wear white to a wedding. When we say that, we say the dress has to look kind of like a wedding dress, okay? Like floor length, lots of lace, like big, poofy, it has to pass for a wedding dress. And even then, wearing an all white dress is like, someone wore an all white dress to my friend's wedding. The whole time I was like, is that white? Is it like beige? And I didn't like it, but it was all white. This is a black dress with white trim. There's plenty of like summer dresses that are like appropriate for weddings that are white with like multicolored flowers on them, for example. That is not an all white dress. And your friend's honestly kind of a bitch. You deserve to get wine spilled on you because you wore a white dress? You didn't. Let's not get this twisted here. Wearing white, having white on you somewhere, like maybe the flowers are white or something. I feel like if there was a problem, your uncle and his bride probably would have said something, And they seemed super upset about the fact that you had wine spilled on you. I don't think she did that on purpose. Your friend, on the other hand, sounds a bit salty. Here's a more detailed account of the actual wine incident for those wondering. Miss Waitress uncorked the bottle beside me, dropped the bottle opener, and when trying to reach down to pick it up, the bottle tilted and wine started pouring out of it, on my back, dripping down my spine. I let out a little yelp, and when she stood up, saw the wine and dropped the bottle right on my shoulder. I had a bruise for a week after. She tried to catch it and knocked it off the back of my head. So that's when a geyser of wine exploded out of the bottle and splashed on my neighbor to the left, staining the whole right sleeve of his white shirt. Then the bottle fell on my lap. I slowly picked it up, stood up, and gave the bottle back to Miss Waitress. There was probably a glass worth of wine left in the bottle. Also, the server had been removed for service for a few hours after the champagne incident. We only saw her again during dinner service, during the main course, when some of the staff had to take their breaks. The Cabernet incident happened right away, and the only other time I saw her was when she stopped me on my way to my room crying and trying to apologize. Okay, so she absolutely did not do that on purpose. Edit 3, I'll call my aunt later today. Thinking about it, I realized that as the bride, her opinion is the only one that actually counts. I'll post an update later today if my friend with this Reddit account is still good with me hijacking said account for a few more days. This final edit is 100% correct. If you're unsure about a dress and whether or not it's appropriate to wear to a wedding, contact the bride and ask her opinion. I wore a dress with like a little bit of like gray on it to my friend's wedding recently, and I had a couple of DMs that were just like, you're wearing white to a wedding. Listen, don't get it twisted. I asked the bride if it was allowed. It was a black dress with purple flowers and some patches of white, okay? That's not like, come on. The rule is, if you could pass for the bride, that's a no-no. It's not only a no-no, it's an absolutely not. Not the a-hole. The dress wasn't even a color that could be considered white adjacent, like light pink. It was black with white details. You can wear something like that to a wedding, I agree. It's not like everything white is off the table. It is entire white or white adjacent outfits that are off the table. Black with some white here and there, totally fine. And that's a gorgeous dress. Thank you. Let's not go around and bully people for wearing a black dress with white on it. Guys wear white pants to weddings. Women wear like sundresses that have, patches of like colored flowers on them. The only white that I have an issue with at a wedding is if you look like a bride. Agreed, the black dress with white accents looks very nice for such a fancy event. Beyond that, although I personally find throwing wine trashy, it's the bride or perhaps her maid of honor who decide if a dress is too white and need to be destroyed through wine while the guest is still wearing it. The idea that a random woman who was present in a professional capacity and blundering about while doing so apparently did the right thing by attacking two guests is ludicrous. Yeah, it's not only you that she spilled the wine on, it's also the guest that was next to you.
Spilled wine on me.
How she even spill a full bottle violently enough to splash two guests instead of snatching it back? If it was one throwaway comment from your friend, I would disregard it. Their intrusive thought demon probably rammed it out of their mouth before they really thought it through. If your friend is a little clueless about casting a critical eye on gender norms and social customs, aka peer pressure from dead people, you can have a conversation about that if you like. The starting point might be this important clue. After the wedding, my aunt was furious at the employee. Would the aunt be furious if that was intentional? If your friend often undermines you in subtle or direct ways, maybe you can reconsider just how close your friendship is. OP responds, thank you for your concern, but knowing my friend, it was a throwaway comment and not them actively shaming me. I mean, it could have been like a joke, I guess.
Well, you were white to a wedding, so you deserve to get wine spilled on you.
And that was like a sarcasm type thing. But You felt bad enough about that you chose to write not only an initial story, but an update to find out if you're an a-hole because you felt bad. So the tone there might not have been as lighthearted. I never ever wear white or any color for that matter, other than the occasional red accent on a black plaid shirt. So the fact that the only time in my life that I wore white was at another person's wedding does seem sus when you don't know the full story. We're gonna head to the update. The update! Hey potatoes, hey! Just hung up with Auntie, congratulated her on her 10th wedding anniversary. They've been in Europe for over a month now for a second honeymoon, but I still managed to talk to her for about an hour before she had to leave her room to go to the restaurant. They're in Italy right now from what I gathered. So basically right away she said, I'm absolutely and definitely not the a-hole. Her opinion is the only one that matters. She loved the dress and was very happy that I followed the dress code. She apologized again for the Cabernet incident. I did learn some gossip surrounding the wedding though, and I thought I might share it with y'all. Ooh, I love a little tea, love a little gossip.
It's tea time!
First, dress code. It was very clear in the invite that this was a fancy event and therefore black tie attire was mandatory. I looked back at the invite and it states no cocktail dresses or casual clothes. For those of us with a limited budget, TIL that she contracted a company that offered rental dresses and suits to help out anyone who didn't have the money for such an outfit. All rentals were covered by the married couple. Honestly, your aunt and uncle sound super accommodating and generous. Not a lot of people would do this. From what I gather, almost half their guests took the offer, which in retrospect explains how all the people my age were able to afford ball gowns and fancy evening attire like they did. Furthermore, the wedding planner had spare dresses and suits in her room in pretty much all sizes. So let me guess, someone still managed to show up underdressed.
I feel a little underdressed.
Provided by the rental company in case someone had to change for any reason, from not respecting the dress code to having major wardrobe malfunctions. This is so unbelievably thoughtful. Like, I am blown away by the thoughtfulness. Upon learning that new information, I asked why I wasn't offered a spare dress after the wine incident. Well, apparently her niece showed up with a short cocktail dress that morning, claiming it was the only thing she could afford. Auntie was mad because she offered many times to help her out with a dress worthy of the event, and she refused every time. So when the niece arrived at the venue with the cocktail dress, the wedding planner brought her to the room and had her changed into the emerald A-line rhinestone covered gown I remember her wearing. That gown was the only size 4 though, therefore when I had my Cabernet shower, there was no spare dress for me. Anyway, I wasn't that uncomfortable, so even if the dress was still available, I might have kept the same dress on. Moral of the story, do not wear a cocktail dress to a black tie event. Now for the server. Oh my God. A week before the wedding, the couple and their children went to a venue and had a rehearsal dinner, sort of. They basically had the meal that we would be served at the reception and could give their comments as to what they like and didn't like, give some feedback on how they wanted the service to feel, and help them make the corrections before the big day. Everything was fine mostly. Only a few small edits required, including replacing all flutes and cups with crystal ones. They paid for it themselves as they didn't like the feel of the ones provided and told the company they could keep it after. Other than that, everything was perfect, except for this, Miss Clumsy Waitress.
Oops. Clumsy me.
At that point, they didn't know she was clumsy, but they knew they didn't like her. She was rude, cold, and didn't know anything about formal etiquette. She would place the plates in front of the guests the wrong way, pour the wine the wrong way, handle silverware and glassware the wrong way. She was all sorts of wrong for the type of event they wanted. Uncle, being a little more slightly rational than my aunt, kept her from going all bridezilla on the catering company and quietly asked the manager that she was replaced. Manager said okay, but that she would be on call if someone called in sick or something. There would still be enough staff to provide smooth service on their wedding day. Morning of the wedding, one of the staff member goes to the bridal suite to bring mimosas to the bride, her makeup artist, hairstylist, and wedding planner. The room had this huge balcony overlooking the outdoor venue full of flowers, water fountain, decorations, etc. The doors to the balcony were wide open, and a bee came in to chill on the bouquet. The bouquet that staff member had to move in order to put down the tray of mimosas. She got stung and had a big reaction, probably allergic to be honest. That girl was way too professional about it because she left the room without bringing attention to herself, went directly to take some Benadryl and was sent to the hospital by her manager to be monitored for anaphylaxis. You probably guessed it, but they had to call another server to replace her. Here comes Miss Clumsy Waitress. Oh my goodness. I find it so weird, like they still kept her on call instead of firing her. Like if you get a direct complaint about someone and you choose to still keep them, I don't know.
You are the problem.
So I don't know what her manager had told her the week prior about her poor performance as to why she was only on call, but the woman was anxious. First, she knocked over the makeup artist palette when she went to the bridal suite to clear off the empty mimosa glasses. Oh, absolutely not. Oh God. If I had personally asked for someone not to be at my wedding and they showed up and the first thing they did was like knock over something, I would be livid. The makeup artist says she was insured for that kind of thing, but my aunt paid for it anyway. About half of it was destroyed. Uncle intervened and said that Miss Clumsy Waitress was not to be seen near the bride if she still wanted to cater the event. Then the champagne flutes incident. She was shaking like crazy. Oh dear Lord. Like, I understand being really nervous. Listen, those like trays of glasses, those are really heavy. If any of you guys haven't served before, you should know that when a server carries like trays of plates and glasses, that is really, really heavy. And if you want to be a server, you have to be honest with yourself about being able to carry one of those trays. And if you can't, you either have to get a ton of practice before you even consider doing like a classy event like this, or maybe rethink being a server, because speaking from experience, I could not for the life of me balance one of those trays. I think that's why I like got fired from a restaurant. So I sympathize with her, but at the same time, I don't know. You got to find another line of work, bestie.
Resign, resign.
So she was shaking like crazy, so the manager asked her not to touch anything and just pour the champagne. That another colleague would bring the tray. But when the wedding planner asked if the champagne was ready because we were waiting for glasses for a toast, she took it as, bring them yourself right now. Oh. Bless your heart. So she took the tray and dropped it instantly, shattering half of the champagne flutes the bride and groom bought. They still had more spares, but a few of the guests had normal, non-crystal champagne glasses because of that. Also, Rip Dom Perignon, you will be missed. After that, my uncle was furious at Miss Clumsy Waitress, but also at the manager, saying he didn't want to see her anymore. That's when she disappeared for a few hours. To be quite frank, I feel like the only person who's really at fault here is the manager for some reason not taking the bride and groom seriously when they say, I don't want to see this person anymore, and still sending them out to serve people. After multiple mistakes, after multiple requests, there's only 40 people and they spent a lot of money on this wedding to make sure everything's perfect. They're super accommodating, super generous. They deserve first class service. So the fact that this manager didn't like heed the warning, So when the Cabernet incident happened, it was the last straw. When I was gone trying to dry off my dress and change underwear, he made a toast. Don't know if my aunt embellished it over the phone, but basically he said he loved everyone present for their big day and that he was sorry if he thought we all deserved the best. Money can't buy qualified staff anymore. Ooh, the tea. Oh, tea. And that he hoped to make it back to all of us with all the love he had for us. Something very passive aggressive toward Miss Clumsy Waitress, but saying he loved us and was happy we were all there. When I saw Miss Clumsy Waitress crying when I came back from my room, she'd been there for the whole speech. My table neighbor who got a wine shower with me went to see her. I think it's best you just leave now. The rest of the evening was perfect, a truly wonderful time for everyone. The catering company reimbursed my aunt and uncle for the crystal glassware they had gifted them. Apparently the venue also gave the newlyweds and my mother, who paid for the dress, a free stay at their establishment, which my mother gave to my grandmother as a gift instead. They then reimbursed us for the dry cleaning and had Miss Clumsy Waitress on probation. She was fired a week later. So yeah, basically I'm not an a-hole according to them, and my aunt's niece got to change her dress on site when it was deemed inappropriate. And Miss Clumsy Waitress probably took another career path. Please wish the couple a happy 10th anniversary. Happy 10th anniversary! So happy for you. One more edit, which I think is important from OP. Irmagerd. I love that your name is Irmagerd. So I had people DM me on how rude the waitress really was at the rehearsal, so I figured I'd add it. I do not want to shame Miss Clumsy Waitress further, especially on things that she said, not that she did, because of how it could have been interpreted. That's why I didn't go into details in the post, but here it goes. When Aunt arrived for the rehearsal, they were dressed in fancy casual clothes, is the best way I can describe it. I saw pictures and pretty sure it was from their last shopping spree at Holt Renfrew or Nordstrom. Oh, you're Canadian, I see. Well, Miss Clumsy Waitress kind of shamed them for being overdressed and acting like big shots. From my aunt's retelling, it was along the lines of, "You can't impress us, leave the act for your social media followers." Ironically, neither of them are on social media other than maybe Facebook for my aunt, because it gives her extra lives in her mobile game if she's connected with Facebook. And a private account on Instagram to share photos with family. She follows 3 people and has the same amount of followers, and my uncle's on LinkedIn. That's it. That's besides the point. Later, she told my aunt to calm down about the way the silverware was placed at the table. Excuse me? As long as your guests have a knife and fork, you don't have a say in the way we arrange your utensils. You are not Queen Elizabeth, and even then, okay, you know what? I'm actually realizing back when I first moved to Toronto and I was looking for a job, I actually answered like a job posting for like a wedding catering company or like just a catering company. Before we got hired, we had to go through this literal training session that taught us where to put forks and knives and glasses and plates on a table for fine dining. Okay, this is something that we had to do before we even got the job. And then based on our performance at this, we got the job. God, did I even do that job? That was like 12 years ago. Did I even host an event? I feel like I did. Oh my God, I did do that. I think I just did it once though. Yeah, because I didn't like carrying the trays. It was heavy! She does have a say in the way that you arrange the utensils, actually. When my uncle made sure with the manager there would be only one large table for all guests, no segregation, just this big table with the bride and groom at one end, their children at the other end, and 15 to 20 guests on each side, request that was agreed upon earlier, he was just confirming Miss Clumsy Waitress said, "Well, that's not a wedding, that's a dinner party." Like literally When the glassware came into the conversation, when uncle and aunt decided to buy better wine glasses because they didn't like the ones they had and knew it was too last minute to ask for different ones, Miss Clumsy Waitress said, "No one ever complained about our glasses before. Wine is wine. If you drink enough of it, you might forget to be obnoxious the day of your wedding and everyone will be thankful for it." Oh no. She said that to the bride and groom? How she even still was allowed to like be on call and didn't get fired? I'm sorry, but that's just negligence. Those are examples that come to mind. Like I said in my post, I had a pretty long conversation with my aunt, so I might have omitted some things. Needless to say, she was not worried about that anymore. She loved the dress and probably had an amazing meal with a decent staff in Italy. So, my dears, it's pretty plain to see. You are not the a-hole.
And I didn't want to hear another word about it. Subscribe.